If you're not new to my channel, it's no secret that I am a huge fan of the Rock-afire Explosion, the animatronic band from the 80s at Showbiz Pizza Place. And then of course Chuck E. Cheese came around and replaced all the Rock-afire Explosion characters with much worse Chuck E. Cheese characters. And then Chuck E. Cheese got rid of all of their animatronics entirely. What a fun timeline! But would you believe me if I told you that as of today, there are still 2 official publicly operating Rock-afire Explosion shows in the United States? Well, before I talk about that, we're gonna have to do a bit of traveling.
Ring, ring goes the bell.
So a little bit of a backstory. Back in 1991, the Rock-afire Explosion underwent a process called concept unification, in which all pre-existing Rock-afire Explosion animatronics were turned into Chuck E. Cheese characters. The way they went about doing this was by ripping all the cosmetics off the Rock-afire Explosion animatronics and slapping on some new and much less interesting Chuck E. Cheese cosmetics. So the underlying mechanisms remained wholly unchanged, which is very obvious when you put pictures of them side by side. And these changes stayed in place for nearly 30 years up until 2019, when Chuck E. Cheese announced that they would be removing animatronics from all of their stores across the country. All animatronics were scheduled to be removed and decommissioned from all Chuck E. Cheese locations by the end of 2024. However, after immense public backlash from animatronic enthusiasts, Chuck E. Cheese corporate decided to announce that they would be keeping animatronics in a select few stores across the country, which is why we are on our way to North Carolina. There are only 2 Chuck E. Cheese locations that still showcase the original Rock-afire Explosion animatronics, more colloquially known as a 3-stage, and one of those shows is right here in Charlotte, North Carolina. This particular location, known to fans as Pineville, opened as a Showbiz Pizza Place back in 1982. And while they did go through concept unification back in 1991, the location actually closed abruptly in 1993. Briefly. Although the franchise chose to shut down the location, Showbiz Pizza Time Incorporated picked up the license almost immediately so the location could continue to welcome guests. Fast forward 30 years and Pineville has the distinct honor of becoming one of the legacy stores that will keep their animatronic show permanently. Now, looking at the stage, there are a few very cool things to note. Pineville is now home to 2 very rare Chuck E. Cheese characters, Munch Jr. and Pizza Cam. Munch Jr., who is a retrofitted choo-choo from the Rock-afire Explosion, is technically not original since it is a replica made by a previous tech. The Pizza Cam, however, is an original Rock-afire Explosion mechanism. This Pizza Cam is actually from the Laurel, Maryland location. Back when they got rid of their animatronics in 2022, the Pizza Cam was put into storage, possibly with the idea in mind that he might one day grace the stage again. Since this is a legacy location, they also have a small side room that displays old merchandise, signage, and even old characters from the Pizza Time Theater era. And since corporate can finally consolidate their restoration efforts into a few select shows across the country, the animatronics are looking better than ever. Characters have been given new and updated cosmetics, the animatronics have been restored to make sure they're running at 100% capacity, and they're really performing just like every 90s kid remembers from their childhood. So I really can't think of a better location to carry the legacy of the Rock-afire Explosion. But speaking of the Rock-afire Explosion, it's time to hit the road. Since we have a bit of a drive ahead of us, now is probably a great time to tell you about today's sponsor, Morgan & Morgan. Morgan & Morgan is America's #1 largest injury law firm with over 1,000 attorneys practicing in all 50 states, many of which I'm driving through right now.
Ka-chow.
Oh no, how could this have happened to me? If only I had filed with Morgan & Morgan. If you're in an accident or injured in any way, you should know your rights because your injury could be worth millions. And Morgan & Morgan doesn't settle for lowball offers. Just in the past couple months, they've seen verdicts of $12 million in Florida, 34 times the highest insurance offer. $26 million in Philadelphia, 40 times the highest insurance offer. And $6.8 million in New York, 25 times the highest insurance offer. And the fee is absolutely free unless you win. Whoa! Did you know you could start a claim with America's largest injury law firm in just one click? It's easy. You can start your claim with Morgan & Morgan right now by going to forthepeople.com/Sully or by clicking the link in the description below. That's forthepeople.com/Sully. Now back to the road trip. Now, like I mentioned, before the Chuck E. Cheese that you know and love existed, there was a restaurant called Showbiz Pizza Place. And so you might be wondering, are we driving to visit the last existing Showbiz Pizza Place? Not exactly. You see, as part of concept unification, all pre-existing Showbiz Pizza Place restaurants were turned into Chuck E. Cheese's, meaning there are no Showbiz Pizza restaurants left in existence to visit. technically. You see, at the time, some franchisees decided to part ways with Showbiz Pizza Time Incorporated and act as their own independently run business. This led to the creation of multiple offshoot restaurant concepts, and one of those restaurants was Billy Bob's Wonderland. Billy Bob's Wonderland actually had two locations. One of them was in West Virginia, and the other was in Kentucky. The two stores eventually combined into a single restaurant, and that is why the next stop on our road trip is Barbersville, West Virginia. Welcome to Billy Bob's Wonderland, home of one of the last two remaining publicly operating Rock-afire Explosion shows. And to say the years haven't been kind to the band would be an understatement. Billy Bob's Wonderland is also home to some of the most horrific Rock-afire masks I have ever seen. And why is that? Starting in the mid-2010s, the owners of Billy Bob's Wonderland have not been on the best of terms with Aaron Fechter, the creator and owner of the Rock-afire Explosion. And since they were no longer able to order official parts from Creative Engineering, they were basically left to fend for themselves. This means using unauthorized show controllers, bootleg masks, and basically anything they can scrounge up to keep these animatronics running. And these bootleg masks are what lead these characters to look uncanny, to say the least. And they don't hold up nearly as well as the original masks, leading to constant tears and rips along with subpar paint jobs. Like, for some reason, it looks like Duke has been put through a fire, and Billy Bob's mask alone has been replaced, and I'm not exaggerating, 4 times today. Over the past decade, they have been caught in this endless cycle of a third party coming to fix the bots up, and then them ultimately deteriorating again within a matter of months. And right now, they're not looking too hot. While some of them are running just fine, their horrid appearance leaves a lot to be desired, which makes it unfortunate that this is one of the last places you can see the Rock-afire Explosion. But all hope is not lost. In a surprise turn of events in early 2024, Aaron Fechter signed a tentative agreement to work with Billy Bob's Wonderland to provide merchandising and restore their show. This means we can finally say goodbye to these horrible bootleg masks, say goodbye to half-working characters, and finally see these guys back in full working condition. There's no timeline for this restoration. It could take months or even years because they basically have to do an entire overhaul of this show. But once that work is complete, I look forward to coming back and seeing the band that I've grown to love. But as I've said, there's still one more publicly operating Rock-afire Explosion in the United States. Come on. Now, up until a few months ago, Billy Bob's Wonderland was the only publicly operating Rock-afire Explosion in the United States. Now, there have been plenty of publicly operating Rock-afire shows over the years, such as the short-lived Showbiz Pizza Zone in 2008, or the even shorter-lived Rock-afire Bar in 2018. But as of today, the only other publicly operating Rock-afire Explosion show is located in a little town called Volo, Illinois. Welcome to the Volo Auto Museum. Now, despite the name, this place has a lot more than just cars. They boast more than 45 different exhibits ranging from cars to movie props to medieval torture devices, and you guessed it, the Rock-afire Explosion. Now, this show is brand new, to the public at least. They just had their grand opening on June 1st, meaning these guys have been performing for less than 2 months at this point. And unlike Billy Bob's Wonderland, these guys look great. All of these guys still have their original cosmetics, their original masks, and are firing on all cylinders, quite literally. Even though Volo just debuted their show last month, they've actually been in possession of it since 2018. You see, around that time, a full Rock-afire Explosion show went up on eBay, and although the winning bidder was unknown at the time, it turned out to be the Volo Auto Museum. We even got some new photos and videos of the band at that time, but unfortunately, much like Billy Bob's Wonderland, they just couldn't come to an agreement with Aaron Fechter and Creative Engineering to display them publicly. Because even though Showbiz Pizza is long gone, Creative Engineering still owns the rights to the Rock-afire Explosion, and rightfully so. So these characters sat in storage for nearly 6 years, where many, including myself, assumed they would be left to sit and collect dust until the end of time. But this year, something very exciting happened. Back in February, Volo announced that they had finally worked out an agreement with Creative Engineering to make Volo Auto Museum the home to the second publicly performing Rock-afire Explosion in the United States. A lot of work had to be done to get these characters up and running again, including replacing old parts and creating a new staging area. Now, the Volo show is unique in that it's located outside in a garage where the garage doors act as the curtain to the stage, opening once every 20 minutes to reveal the most underrated band in rock and roll history. And I truly think that the Volo Auto Museum is the perfect place to preserve the legacy of the Rock-afire Explosion, and I am so happy that people can come here to experience that childlike wonder that so many did back in the 1980s. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the last publicly performing Rock-afire Explosion on our road trip. There are many private shows out there, including mine, that just aren't open to the public, so while many are preserving the legacy of the Rock-afire Explosion behind the scenes, it is places like Volo Museum, Billy Bob's Wonderland, and the Pineville Chuck E. Cheese that are preserving the legacy of these wonderful animatronics in the public eye. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you're interested in supporting the channel, I have uploaded over 40 minutes of never-before-seen animatronic footage from this trip as a members exclusive. Memberships start at just 99 cents a month, and every penny goes back into making the best content I can for this channel. Big thank you to everyone at Pineville Chuck E. Cheese, Billy Bob's Wonderland, Volo Museum, and all of the fans who stopped me along the way to say hi. It was so great meeting you all, and I hope to do another trip someday where I can meet a lot more of you in person. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for supporting me, and until next time, be kind to one another, stay safe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.